Hello makers and welcome back to the studio. Now today I want to spend a little time talking about different types of paint and their coverage. I know it doesn't sound like a particularly exciting topic, but when you're working on any kind of painted projects, sometimes it's very important how you layer your paints to make sure that the paints end up covering the thing you want them to cover. And I'm going to talk about two of the most common culprit colors when we're working on layering, and those are our friends red and yellow. Yeah, there's just red, surprisingly, you figure you paint red on something, it will cover it. It really doesn't. It's a very translucent paint, and yellow, as might be expected, is really hard to have it cover something darker than it, like a black line. We're going to test that out. I'm going to work with this piece of paper right here, and I'm going to lay down a couple black lines that we can use as kind of the lines we want to end up obscuring over time. So let me just get a brush in here, and I'm going to just paint a line right here. Give it a little bit of space to do that. All right, line right there. And I'm going to do the same thing right over here. And again, this is going to be a test piece. And by the way, I have the tendency to use these and then keep them so I can use them as a reference in the future if I'm ever working on a project and I want to get a sense, am I going to have a problem with coverage here? I'm going to try to make these as equal as possible, just so we have consistency. What I want to do is I want to spend some time painting different colors over these to see how that works out for us. And again, we may be up for a few surprises along the way. So, yeah, trying to not get paint all over myself. That's always the nice challenge when you're doing any kind of painting project is how much paint can you actually get on you and all your clothes at the same time? And the answer is quite a bit. So I want to try to avoid that from happening. But for right now, I think I hit the fingers a few. Let's come in here. I'm going to give this a moment to dry, and then we'll start laying a few colors down on top of it and see what we come up with.
3 days later.
All right, we're back, and we have pretty good coverage here, and everything's dry. Now, I did utilize the world-famous hair dryer paint drying trick. So if you're not familiar with that, check out this video up here. It will give you a deeper insights on how you can spend more time painting and less time waiting for paint to dry, because that's not the most fun you're going to have. Now, today we're going to take a look at 4 different types of relatively inexpensive or bargain acrylic paints. Well, for a few reasons. 1, because I have some around. And 2, because most of the time when you go out and buy acrylic paint yourself, if you go to a store like Michael's or Target even, you're going to find certain paints and really only those paints available to you. And also they're very affordable, so if you want to create a spectrum of colors, it's not going to break the bank. So in this case, we're going to be looking at a couple. We have Mondo Llama, which is actually a paint I really like, and it's found exclusively at Target. So we'll look at that. We're also going to look at the Deco Art Americana paint. And again, these are the kinds of paints you can find in the paint rack at stores like Michael's and Joann Fabric. And what's really nice about this is, again, they're affordable, there's a wide variety of colors, and they can be used for a number of different projects. By the way, everything I'm working today with is going to be a matte acrylic finish. We're also going to work with another inexpensive choice that I often go with, which is Apple Barrel. And Apple Barrel, again, is a fairly widespread, easy to find paint, and it allows us to be able to, again, have a wide variety of colors to work with and not spend zillions of dollars to get there. And then finally, Craftsmart. Now, Craftsmart has been around. You find Craftsmart definitely in Michael's and some other places. But again, as a solution and as a color for someone who's painting, it's going to work out fine for you. So what I want to do with these different paints is I want to talk a little bit about what their coverage is going to be. So let's get these guys lined up and we'll see what kind of options. I'm going to go with the Mondo Llama first, just because it's the first one here. And what I want to do is I want to come in here and I'm going to grab a paintbrush and I'm just going to grab and put a vertical line over my horizontal black line so we can get a sense of what kind of coverage. And again, what I want you to notice here is that when we paint this over, there's a fair amount of black showing through. So if we're trying to put this yellow on a darker color, we may end up with some challenges, and we can see pretty clearly what that problem is going to be right away. So again, if I were to come in here and start putting some layers down, let this dry, put some layers, I can eventually start to cover up that black. But it's more of a challenge, and sometimes it can take quite literally 5 to 6 different coats in order to make the black totally obscured. I'm going to show you actually a trick around that in a little bit. All right, so there is one of the colors we're going to put down. And by the way, I'm just going to make a note to myself at the bottom of each one of these, and I'll say this is going to be Mondo Llama. So all right, so there is our first color. Just because, again, it's next in line, I'm going to go with the Deco Art Americana. And sometimes, by the way, if the paints have been sitting around for a little while, it's good to give them a shake, because what starts to happen is a lot of the pigment will settle down to the bottom of the container here, and you'll end up with a lot of the just the binder at the top, and that's not where the color is. So let's get that shaken up. That should be good. And one of the things I actually like about working with these squeeze bottles is that you can squeeze just a little bit out onto your brush, so you don't have to fill dishes with your paint. And sometimes you end up with a lot of waste, because when you're done, it's kind of hard to get it back in here. But let me come in here and let's see what we can do. We're matching the colors somewhat closely. And this paint, just automatically, is thinner than the Mondo Llama. The coverage is, again, you can see the difference here as we come in and give it some coverage. So one of the things, of course, if you're trying to go for a translucent look where you want the other color to shine through, then it's a perfect solution. But again, if you're going for coverage, it makes it a lot more challenging. All right, so there we go. Again, not vastly different, a little thinner to work with. And let me just make a note that this is the Americana. Okay, and let's try some apple barrel next. Again, I'm going to shake this guy up. This is a new container, but still, it's been sitting around perhaps for a month or two, and that can affect what kind of paint you get on the brush. All right, let me get some of that out onto here. There we go. Now this paint is a little bit thicker than the Americana, and we're going to bring it down here. And I think you can notice a little bit. Maybe you can't see it as well on camera. It's got a little bit better coverage than the other two paints we've used so far. So that shows a certain amount of promise. Okay, so that might be nice. All right, and one more paint to go here for our yellows. And let me get the Craft Smart. Again, I'll shake this guy out. And let's drop some down. Okay, again, this is a wetter paint. And all right, and we'll get that. All right, that's good. Let me just label these so, again, I don't forget. This is the Craft Smart, and this is the Apple Barrel. All right. They're fine. I mean, the thing is once again, if I look at all four of these colors, there's some slight hue variances here. They're slightly different colors. But the simple reality is that they're all pretty close to one another in their lack of being able to cover up a foundational color like this black here. Now let's do the same thing for the red. We'll put them in the same order. I have the same brands for the red colors here. And I'll pull this over here. And again, let's get some Mondo Llama in here on the red side. Okay, that is. And again, let's make sure we smooth it out over the black. That's the part we're actually trying to cover. All right, so there we go. That's the Mondo Llama. Let me find my Americana here. And let's get some paint on there. Here we go. And again, a little bit thicker on this one than certainly the yellow was. Okay. And let's do the apple barrel next. Yeah, might not be in the exact same place color-wise. I have a berry red here. Let me shake that up just a little bit. So there's some berry red. Looks very close, actually, color-wise. And then finally, we have the Craft Smart red. This is the bright red color. All right, slightly different color, but it's a little more berry colored, I suppose. But again, it gives us the same information. Let me just make a quick note down here. This is the apple barrel. This is the Craftsmart, and this is the Americana. So now I would keep this someplace safe where I can use it as a reference tool. And when I'm working on paintings in the future, if I have a darker color and I say, you know, a splotch of yellow or some red on top of this might be nice, it's going to give me a better sense of what that coverage is going to look like if I'm just using the paints natively and I'm putting just down a single layer. All right, so I'll be able to use that. Anyway, in the next video, I'm going to share with you ways that you can actually make things a little bit easier on yourself by adding additional opacity to your paint. So I'm going to talk about how all that works. But for now, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it. It really helps us out an awful lot. And of course, if you want to be part of the conversation that we're having here at Mixed Media Masters, we'd love to spend time with you. Just hit the subscribe button and hit that bell icon, and it will really let us help you learn more about art. Every time we drop a new video, we'll be able to share some more content with you. Anyway, thank you so much for your time and attention, and I'll see you next time.